Bobby? Water sucks. Gatorade is better.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is your Commish with another Gatorade Fantasy Football Podcast update. Are y'all ready? All right, let's go get it. All right, guys, playoffs. They are right around the corner. Literally, this is the last week of the season coming right up. We have a much clearer picture of the playoff picture, and it's coming down right to the wire. This week, guys, for you in this podcast, we're going to regular dose of a little bit of injury news. There's not that much. Game reviews, of course, a little bit more, in depth than last week. And it will, include a playoff update in place of power rankings. At this time of the season, I don't think power rankings mean that much. But having a clearer picture of who's in the playoffs, because things have shifted, and who's still in the playoff hunt. I think that's what's really important right now. After next week, I will have the playoff review, talking about matchups and all that stuff. And I might do something maybe in the off season after the championship game. Maybe do keepers, updates and stuff like that. So, I'll throw all these updates mainly on the Facebook page, keep you guys apprised of what's happening. But that's it for this intro. Guys, let's get straight into the injuries.
He poked me in the eye. Captain Insano shows no mercy.
Injuries. Not that many injuries, guys. Paxton Lynch got hurt for quarterbacks. I think they're going back to Trevor Siemian. Horrible quarterback situation going on over there. For running backs, Doug Martin concussed. He was running pretty well before that, but we'll see what happens with that. Wide receivers, none that I saw with anybody that's actually playing on our squads. Tight ends, Greg Olsen re-injured his foot. Supposedly not that serious, but we'll see how that works. If he's a tough dude, if he's healthy enough to play, he'll probably play. As most of you guys know, there was that fight between Crabtree and Aqib Talib. So that's going to be a big thing. Crabtree, both their suspensions were 2 games, but both of them got reduced to 1 game. So Crabtree is out. So that's something to look forward to for Jordan. And also, unfortunately, Eli Manning has gotten benched. It's crazy. I know. I wish we could bench Joe Flacco. A lot of disrespect. That team is nothing without him, and he's not even doing that good. He's not doing that well. But I don't know. Geno Smith is not the answer, but it's the Giants. I don't know what they're doing over there. But Evan Ingram takes a hit with this. Orleans Darkwell probably takes a hit. Sterling Shepard, if he ever comes back this season, takes a hit. So, guys, watch your Giants. Watch your Giants. That's all I really have for injuries. My process of finding injuries is, other than listening to what I hear from other podcasts, I go through like the scores, and I'll see like the O's and the IRs and stuff, and see who's going out, pretty much. And from there, I decide who goes into the little document for the podcast and who doesn't. There's also another one, CJ Beathard. So Jimmy Garoppolo is probably coming in and starting next week, which should be pretty fun for the 49ers. But yeah, that does it for the injuries, guys. Let's move on to the game reviews. Alrighty, my dudes. First game of the week, we have slight work at Pocket Dogs with a score of 92.6 to 69.5. Manny played the role of spoiler this week, knocking Jordan off the top spot in the Captain Insano Coalition division. He used J.D. McKissick for the glory win. But main story here is Antonio Brown is the greatest wide receiver of the decade. hands down, not even a contest. I mean, who else has performed near his level in this decade, which is up to 2010? You know, Megatron, hurt a lot, missed games. Andre Johnson, good, not same level. You know, Julio, good, not same level. Those guys miss games. Like Antonio Brown doesn't. He has he scores touchdowns. It's not just yardage. Only person I can think of really is Fitz, but that's it. But you know, Fitz is insane. You can't really count Randy Moss or Terrell Owens because they were done by like 2010, 2012. But yeah, this game drops Jordan to second place in the division. He also loses Michael Crabtree to suspension, and he keeps playing that awful Cowboys defense. You know, it's not helping. He has a lot of droppable players that could make room for useful pieces, like the Cowboys and the Texans defense. Both of them are horrible. Chris Thompson's on the IR, Zach Miller's on IR. Robbie Gould, you don't need two kickers. Brandon Coleman sucks. That's a lot of people. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people that you could drop and actually pick up useful pieces that could actually help you in the playoffs. And you just use that waiver wire, man. Use that waiver wire. But that pretty much does it. Manny keeps his playoff hopes alive. I'll talk about that in the playoff hunt later on. But that does it for the first game, guys. Let's move on. Alright guys, for the second game we had Fail Mary at ACLs and Fibulas with a score of 103 to 148.8. Big important game as both teams are in the playoffs, just jockeying for position at this point. Josh drops his second loss in a row. Trading for Melvin Gordon was nice, but it didn't even make a difference this week. Jacoby Brissett's not that good. Probably should have picked up or used another quarterback. But his running ability and having a bad offensive line actually usually gives him extra points. It didn't work this week. And unfortunately for him, Des Bryant continues to disappoint. His best game this year was 7 catches for 63 yards and a touchdown. He is only a top wide receiver by name, not by production. And Dak sucking a big one, doesn't help. For Reg, he wins another one, takes the top spot in the division. Even if he loses next week, Jordan would have to outscore him by 66 points to take over that top spot, which is very unlikely. Then again, Reg has had a 70-point game in the past, and Jordan has had a couple of 140-point games before, so very possible. Not very possible. It is just possible. Julio had a big game, huge game. That's his ceiling. Like 40 points, 250 yards or whatever. It's higher than anyone else's pretty much. Unfortunately, his floor is him getting injured like he always does. Just like last year. He had a 300-yard receiving game last year, and then he missed weeks 13 and 14 and then shit the bed in week 15. So he sucked during those fantasy playoffs. That's classic Julio, so hopefully that doesn't happen this year. Joe Mixon finally came to form. This might be his breakout. I still don't trust that line, but maybe it just needed all this time for them to gel. 148, 149 points, pretty much highest score of the week. Probably top 5 in the year so far in points scored. So Reg is on a roll. Team's looking strong. Hopefully he doesn't suffer any more injuries and Mixon keeps it up. He looks to be one of the favorites this year. But let's go on to the next game, fellas. Third game on the docket. Not that important. We have Evil Doc at Fried Spam and Eggs with a score of 106.3 to 128.9. Wow, both guys actually had pretty decent games score-wise. Frank had a decent game with 106 points. He's still the first team to have 10 losses, but good for him breaking 100. Marshawn Lynch finally had a 20-touch game, and that's probably because they didn't have Michael Crabtree. He has a nice rest of season schedule, but it doesn't matter for Frank. And Jameson Crowder played the way he should after last year, but like I said, doesn't matter for Frank. And look at Angel. He finally moved on from David Johnson. He has 2 good games in a row. Keenan Allen with another huge game. Pretty much the performances I traded for when I got him, but he wasn't doing that on my team, so good for him, I guess. And Marvin Jones Jr. is playing out of his mind. He's always had the talent, even when he was in Cincinnati, but he just never got the volume. And last year was maybe the chemistry building season he needed to get in sync with Matt Stafford. He has the physical makings of a wide receiver 1, so we'll see how that works out for him. That's it for this game. Nothing else really playoff-wise. Neither of them can make it, so we'll move on to the 4th game. And for our 4th game, we have Hard Knocks at Barking Guns with a score of 124.4 to 92.8. It's another nice win by Josh. Puts him in the 4th seed. He has the highest or 2nd highest score in the league behind Reggie by 2 points, and he is ahead of Manny by 11 points. So there's only 3 teams with over 1,300 points at this moment. Tom Brady with another 20 spot, and Tevin Coleman proves to be a pretty good feature back without Devontae Freeman. With Freeman slated to come back next week, we'll see how that works out for him. Adam Thielen and Brandon Cooks also had good weeks. The Brady-Cook stack seems to be working well for Josh. So they could help him in the playoffs, even though I don't think he has enough star power, but he might just have just enough production. Trey had a decent game with 92 points. Zach Ertz finally went over 100 yards, and it's actually the first player on the Eagles all year to do so. So good for him, I guess. Alright, that pretty much does it since we don't really do anything with Trey's team. Let's move on to the 5th game, fellas. And our 5th game of the week, we have Motorboating Sons of Bitches at Vitamin D with a score of 66.1 to 78.1. This was an ugly game for 2 of the better teams, 2 top half teams. Fred didn't even field a defense. It's not smart for a man fighting for a playoff spot. Him trading his 2 Saints running backs really hurt him. He kept Jordan Howard, but his inconsistency has hurt the team. And unfortunately for him, this week Vernon Davis goose eggs. This was really surprising. The Giants have sucked against a tight end all year, giving up a touchdown in every game, and they actually shut the door the past 2 games, and Vernon Davis happened to be one of them. Fred is still in at this moment, but he has 2 teams chomping at the bits. For Mikhail, he'll take the win, but having Alex Collins as your 2nd best scorer and on your bench is not a good sign. Russ Wilson's a boss. Can't say anything about him. He leads the NFL in yards. And Kareem Hunt continues to disappoint. He could be better next year when maybe sophomore slump, or he gets over this rookie wall, but this trade could be the downfall of Mikhail's season this year. Hopefully his other pickups like the Jacksonville defense and LaShawn McCoy could help out this year. Alright guys, let's move on to the last game of the week. And for the last game of the week, we have Team Darkness at Tasha Rain with a score of 95.8 to 99.9. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. After rattling off 3 straight wins, TJ drops 3 straight losses. Carson Wentz continues to ascend, but that's pretty much it for him. J.J. actually disappointed. He's not getting the volume you would think back of his talent and pedigree would. Unless you actually think they're saving for the playoffs, or you might not think he's that good at all. I think they're probably saving him for the playoffs, knowing his injury history and everything. Corey, with this win, Corey stays in the hunt. I'll talk about his chances in a little bit. Decent games all around. Devin Fun just continues to impress, and Devontae Adams has shown that he is the favorite in Green Bay of Brett Hundley. Jerick McKinnon unfortunately had another bad game. He's come down to earth. He hasn't been good his entire career, but just shown promise, and 3 good games this year does not change that. And that, fellas, is it for game reviews. Let's move on to the playoff preview. Alright guys, time for the playoff preview. some changes here. In first place, we still have Mikhail set for a bye week. In second place, who's pretty much locked it up, except for a big win by Jordan. Reggie has the second seed, is a division leader, so he'll get a bye week in week 14 or week 13. I'm sorry. One of the first top matchups that we're gonna have also is gonna be number 6 at Fred at number 3 Jordan. Unless Jordan makes it to number 2, he could also. I don't think he's able to. Yeah. If Jordan loses and Josh wins, White Josh will leapfrog him. So that's the 6 and 3 matchup right now. In the 5 and 4 matchup, we have Josh Del Mundo at 5 and White Josh at 4. These two teams are pretty much also set. Don't really know how one of this. Yeah, there's actually even a way for Josh, Brown Josh, to leapfrog into the 3 spot. Only way is if the two Joshes win and Jordan loses, it will end up going to a tiebreaker. Whoever has scored the most points in the season will take that 3 spot. Right there also is Fred at the bottom, like I said earlier, and he's being challenged by Corey. And you know, this is where we talk about who's still in the playoff hunt. And as for the playoff hunt for Corey, he is at this moment 6 and 6 with 1,120 points. He's 1 and 3 in the division. And what he needs to happen is if he loses and he goes to 6 and 7, he also needs Fred to lose. And he still needs to have, he needs to score more than him, which not looking likely. Yeah, he needs to outscore him. That's his first scenario. He also has a second scenario still. He needs to win to become 7 and 6. He needs White Josh to lose, and even if Fred wins to also go to 7 and 6, he needs to outscore them both, pretty much, to jump in instead of just, beating Fred or whatever. But if he loses, he needs Fred to lose also, and he needs to score 30 points. That's possible. But if he does win, he needs Josh to lose, and if Fred wins. But if Fred loses and Josh loses, he still gets in. Yeah, still a chance for him. What's a little bit more difficult is for Manny, who scored 1,305 points. He's also 1 and 3 in the division. What he needs to do is he needs to win this week to barely go to 6 and 7, and he also needs Fred and Corey to both lose, and he needs to stay ahead of them in points, which, being ahead of everybody else other than 2, it's a good head start for that. But he needs a lot of people to lose in order for him to make it. I doubt it's gonna happen. I think Corey's the only one that really has a shot to make it to the playoffs, and yeah, I think it's actually gonna be pretty difficult because Manny does play Reggie, tough matchup. Corey does play Mikhail, tough matchup, and Fred plays Trey, tough matchup. Because I'm gonna try my best to make sure that Fred loses, just because I don't know, guys. It's just a personal thought. But yeah, that's it for the playoff preview. It's not that long of a podcast this week. No trades to go over, but next week we should have more in-depth podcast. I am actually switching schedules at work. I am going to start working nights, and I will have Sunday and Monday off. So I want to try to get these out at a different time, hopefully on Monday.
Watch where you're going, needle dick.